What's up, guys? Coach Gaglione here. This is another edition of the Gags Goals Updates. If you've been following along, you already know that I'm getting ready for Reebok Record Breakers, November 10th. We're about 3 weeks out at the time of this taping, so getting down to the wire. So I'm very excited. Training's been going well. As far as body weight is concerned, I'm at an all-time low of 233 pounds. And if you've been following along my weight loss journey, my road to 220, I'm down over 100 pounds all time. At my heaviest, I was 340. And yeah, so I've been down about 45, 47 pounds or so just from last year alone. So things have been really good. I'm really happy with how things are going. I'm on a plan on just doing a small water cut to make 220. And I'd like to, try and be 235, even maybe 240 on the platform, at least for squats. By the time I get to deadlifts, probably be a little bit dehydrated at that point. But that's kind of like the general plan. And again, this is just a challenge. I don't necessarily, I'm not advocating the kind of big weight cuts and things like that. This was a challenge for myself. I've never done an equipped meet at 220 before. And this is kind of giving me like a kind of overarching goal to continue to get leaner. On the in-body today, I had my lowest body fat percentage reading. Fat mass is down, muscle mass is maintaining. So the in-body has been reading about 21% today. And then the last time I did my DEXA scan, I was also 21%, but my in-body was reading about 25, 26. So I would imagine I'm kind of very close to my short-term goal, which was to get under 20% body fat. So nothing kind of outstanding, but it's progress. So I'm kind of happy about that. So I'm kind of well on my way. And so the body fat is good, muscle mass is good, and the actual weight on the scale is good. So those kind of check all those boxes. And probably what you guys kind of care about the most is how's the strength going. And strength was great. So I felt really strong on this day. This was probably my best deadlift workout of the cycle, which obviously is my last and final heavy deadlift workout of this training cycle, so that's good news. Kind of the plan for today was to work up to something a little bit above an opener. I did kind of something a little bit above a last warm-up, something a little bit above an opener, and then do some kind of reverse band work with around the projected third attempt, and just something a little overload. And I'll kind of be doing a similar thing for squat and bench for my final heavy workouts moving forward. So I did like a 565 deadlift, which went up pretty smooth. That felt pretty good. I think also with being a little bit lighter today, I was able to kind of crank the straps a little bit tighter. Things were a little bit looser. In general, I got the suit on pretty good, so that helped a lot. It helped me get in a little bit better position. And obviously all the drills I've been doing and exercise I've been doing helping strengthen my hips. So 565 went up smooth. Then from there, I did a little bit above what would be my opener. I think I'll probably open around 580 pounds or so, and just that's been a weight that I've been kind of hitting consistently in training. So I think that'll be a good starting point, and then I can make a bigger jump from first to second, and then kind of go for my goal on the third attempt. So then I went up to 605, which is the heaviest I've gone this entire training cycle, and it's a personal record for what it's worth at this all-time low body weight. I've never pulled over 600 pounds, weighing under 250, and I was 233 today. So I was happy to pull 605 today. Last year around this time, I pulled 660 pounds in October at 275, which is my all-time meet PR. I've done 700 in the gym before with Stan Rhino Efforting and Larry Meals and a bunch of other cast of characters, Kevin Oak, to name a few. And you can maybe check out, that old video if you want to see me pulling 700. If you're interested in that. So I'm right on my way. And what I was saying before was when I pulled 660 in the contest, I think the most I ever deadlifted that cycle was 615. So pulling 605 in training puts me right around where I want to be. Ideally, I'd like to pull around 300 kilos, which would be about 661, which would give me an all-time meet PR at an all-time low body weight, and it'd be about triple body weight deadlift. So that'd be kind of like the overarching goal if all things according to plan. Obviously, I got to squat and bench first. So ideally, that would be my ultimate goal for those of you interested. So that 300 kilo number, it's a really nice milestone. And that'd be kind of my main goal for the meet, and I'd be around a third attempt. So considering that's around my third attempt, I elected to do 655 with a reverse monster mini band, which was also a personal record for this training cycle, a personal record of this body weight with that band tension. Last block, I did 635, so this was a 20-pound increase. So I was very happy about that. It moved great. Grip's holding up, so I'm happy about that. And then I kind of did a little bit of a YOLO lift. On my third, I was thinking about this last night. I've been kind of visualizing my final workouts, and I wanted to do some sort of overload. I'm going to do some sort of overload in all three lifts. So I'm going to be basically taking something that's above a projected third or above what would be 100%. Just to overload my nervous system and then also give myself a little bit of a mental boost and mental confidence. So I use a light band for this particular day. Last block, I did 665, and that was fairly challenging. And during today, I actually did a 695-pound reverse band deadlift, which is, I think, only 5 or 10 pounds off my best ever. Like I mentioned before, I've pulled 700 in the gym, and I believe I've done 705 with a reverse light band. So that was really cool. Again, it was a little bit of a YOLO lift, but I wanted to overload a little bit. I felt good. The 655 moved well, in my opinion. It felt good. So I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. I wanted to strain a little bit, and I certainly did. The lockout was challenging, and but I was able to hold on to it with my grip for a decent amount of time. My timing was a little off with the lockout, as far as my hips and my back being coordinated together, but I felt I was really happy with that. And yeah, like I said, just the fact that I'm closing in on just holding, whether it be reverse bands suited or not, the fact that I'm kind of getting back to around that 700 number is really cool for me, because that's still on my bucket list. I'd still like to pull 700 in a competition at some point, but I'm not in any rush. So that was really cool. That was definitely like the highlight of the day for me. Moving forward into the supplemental exercises and the accessory kind of movements, a lot of things you're going to kind of see are going to be a lot of accommodating resistance driven. This is not necessarily always optimal for raw lifting necessarily, but I really do think, especially for equipped lifters or lifters that are raw with wraps, it's really important to kind of learn to accelerate the weight. And even if you're just general population, maybe you're not a recreational, maybe you're just a recreational power lifter, I do think bands and chains are great because they do accommodate the strength curve. They do teach you to accelerate. And a lot of times when you're more in a mechanically advantageous position where your muscles aren't really on a lot of tension, the bands and chains will give you some more resistance at the top, where a lot of times you're stronger. Now, this is not always the case for deadlifting, and I know with myself, my sticking points have changed quite a bit over the years. Lockout has always been a problem. As I've gotten leaner, the lockout has gotten considerably better, and I would say my sticking point has definitely moved down quite a bit. My sticking point used to be very, very, very high up, that last maybe inch or so. But that being said, I do still think there's a lot of benefit to doing that overload work, and it's definitely, since I've been doing more chain and band work, my acceleration in all three lifts have definitely gotten better. If you kind of watch some of the older videos, you can kind of see that my speed has definitely improved with similar weights. So whether that be just getting stronger or more explosive, of a combination of the two, it's definitely helping. And I definitely think there are good tools in the toolbox, and I do think that you should use them when appropriate. And just a great way to kind of practice your technique and kind of learn to accelerate and not just cruise through the range of motion. A lot of times people will, especially if they're really explosive off the floor, people tend to kind of cruise to the top. The chains and the bands will help you accelerate. So I did a 405 block pull, low block pull. I really love the low block pull for sumo lifting because it's a little bit easier to get in position, but it's still usually a more challenging start. We use about a 1.5 inch block. We use the DC blocks. You can get these from Sorenex, you get these from Elite FTS. There's a bunch of different places where you can get them, but they're really stackable, and it's a similar height, and they hold up pretty well. So we use that 1.5 inch block. We really love, it's a great height for a sumo lifter. It elevates you a little bit, but still gives you a lot of strength for the hips. Great way to kind of build your sumo deadlift. Again, I elected to put the chains. When we do the sumo deadlift with the chains, we use the chains in the center. This does a couple of things. Since the chains are all kind of bunched up in the center, it's not going to allow the bar to flex as much. So it's going to make the start a little bit harder if you're using a deadlift bar. Obviously, if you're using a stiff bar, it'll also make the start a little bit harder. But by putting the chains in the center, it's going to be a little bit harder to flex. So there's actually a little bit of extra resistance, and it's going to actually make the start a little bit harder, as well as the lockout being harder. Because obviously the chains, as they kind of build up off the floor, the weights will get heavier and heavier, and as the weights come down, they get lighter and lighter. So in addition to making the lockout harder, having the chains kind of bunched up in the center for a sumo deadlift will also make the start a little bit harder, which is a good benefit for people that are trying to learn to pull the slack out of the bar. So I like that. It's a little tip for you guys versus just kind of putting the chains on the outside. So if you're a sumo deadlifter, it's kind of worth kind of playing around, putting the chains in the center. Also, if you're working with multiple groups, if you have some conventional deadlifters working with sumo deadlifters, it's really easy to kind of switch the chains on and off to kind of accommodate the lifter's stance. So secondly, and also I just want to kind of build up that acceleration, overload the top a little bit. And having the chains in the center is going to make the lockout a little bit more awkward. You really have to drive your hips through. So that's another added benefit for having the chains in the center. I did 2 sets of 5 with 405 and about 80 pounds of chain. That felt pretty good. At this point in the training cycle, I might be doing a little bit lower rep training. But I'm sticking with a lot of 5s with the supplemental stuff, and the main reason being like that 5 rep range, sometimes 3, but doing a lot of 5s because I do want to still preserve some muscle as I'm leaning out. I don't want the suit to be really fitting too loosely. Luckily, I do have that metal suit, so it is adjustable, but I don't want to like lose too much kind of mass in my hips and stuff. The briefs are fitting a little loose in kind of my glute area. So I want to make sure that I'm still kind of maintaining as much muscle as possible. So I kind of mentioned before with upper body stuff, doing a lot of still isolation work, a little bit more than normal at this point in the training cycle, just because I'm trying to make sure the suit is fitting properly, and also I'm trying to maintain as much muscle as possible as I'm leaning out. So not necessarily the ideal situation going into the meet, but this is just the challenge that I set for myself. So I figured I'd give you a little insight of what I'm doing. Lastly, I did 2 more sets of 5. I did a pause deadlift with a conventional stance. So we kept the chains on. Again, to work on that acceleration a little bit. So as I've mentioned before, my sticking point is a little lower now, so it's a little bit more like kind of midway around kind of that knee area. So I've been doing some lower pauses. So number 1, the pauses are going to kind of help kind of build some more time under that kind of sticking point, kind of around the mid-range area. I was kind of doing these a little bit lower just to kind of build some strength off the floor as well. And also the reason I still want to do some conventional work is to make sure my back is still getting some good stimulus. So I did those with 365 and 80 pounds of chain. Moving pretty well. The conventional stance is actually starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, and pauses are a really great way to kind of feel that. So I'm looking forward to, after the meet, to just kind of build up my raw strength and build up my conventional a lot more. I'd like to get my raw conventional pulls back up over 600. My best ever all time is 635 for a double conventional, so I'd like to obviously get back up there, and I know that if I can build up my raw strength, that'll allow me a better shot to pull 700 equipped in the future. So I think if you're a sumo deadlifter, if you're an equipped deadlifter, the conventional deadlift is probably the best way to build up your back strength. So it's important to kind of keep those pulls in, especially. So yeah, that's going to be it. As far as accessory movements, I'm starting to really not do a lot of spinally loaded stuff, so I've kind of nixed out like any kind of heavy bent over rows and stuff. I'm doing more pull-ups and chest supported rows and things like that, and more machines, just to kind of give my spine a little bit of a break, because one of the things I want to do is start to unload the spine moving forward. And then yeah, we got squat workout and bench workout, and then we'll be at the meet. So I'm pretty excited. I'm starting to focus in, I'm starting to dial in, I'm starting to visualize more. But I really appreciate you guys following me along my journey. Make sure, if you're not already, if you want some different updates and some quicker updates, make sure you're also following us on Instagram at Gaglio and Strength. Really appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for following me on the road to 220. It's been a long journey. It's been, especially the last 2 years, been trying to focus on that weight loss and that fat loss, but I still want to be strong. I want to be lean and strong, and I hope this inspires you that you can stay healthy, you can get leaner and still be strong. You just got to be patient. You got to work hard. You got to be consistent. And until next time, guys, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.